There's a specific kind of loneliness that only happens when you're surrounded by people. It's the loneliness of knowing, somewhere deep in your gut, that the people you call friends don't actually like you. Not the way you like them, not the way you thought they did, and the worst part? You already know this. You've known it for a while, but you stay anyway. This is about why you do that, and what it's costing you. If you've ever waited for a text that never came, if you've ever been the one who always reaches out first, if you've ever felt like you're performing in a friendship just to keep it alive, then you already know what I'm talking about. Because there's a difference between being liked and being tolerated, between being valued and being kept around. And somewhere inside, you can feel the difference. It shows up in small ways. The plans they make without you, the conversations that stop when you arrive, the way they light up for other people but stay dim around you. You tell yourself you're imagining it. You tell yourself you're being paranoid, but your body knows the truth. And the question you're really asking, the one that keeps you up at night, is this: if I know they don't really like me, why can't I just leave? That's what we need to talk about. If this already feels too real, do me a favor. Subscribe now, because what comes next is going to explain why you've been stuck in this pattern. And by the end, you'll understand what you need to do about it. There's usually a moment when you first realize it. Not the moment when it became true, but the moment you could no longer deny it. Maybe it was a birthday they forgot. Maybe it was a group chat you weren't added to. Maybe it was the way they talked about someone else with genuine warmth and you realized they never talk about you that way. Whatever it was, it cracked something open. And suddenly, all the small moments you'd been ignoring rushed in at once. The times they cancelled on you but not on others. The invitations that never came. The effort that only ever flowed one direction. And in that moment, you had a choice. Acknowledge the truth and risk losing the friendship, or swallow the truth and keep pretending. Most people choose the second option, not because they're weak, but because the alternative feels worse. Because here's what nobody tells you about one-sided friendships. They're not just about the other person not liking you. They're about you being terrified of what it means if they don't. Because if they don't really like you, then what does that say about you? That's the question that keeps you trapped, and that's where we need to go next. When you stay in a friendship where you're not really wanted, you're not actually trying to save the friendship. You're trying to save your sense of self. Because somewhere along the way, you learned a dangerous lesson. That your value is determined by whether other people choose you. And if they don't choose you, if they don't prioritize you, include you, think about you, then maybe you're not worth choosing. This is what psychologists call external validation dependency. It's when your self-worth is outsourced to other people's opinions and behaviors, and it usually starts early. Maybe you had a parent who was inconsistent with affection. Maybe you were the kid who tried too hard to fit in. Maybe you learned that love was conditional, something you had to earn and could easily lose. So you became hyper-aware of other people's signals. You learned to read the room, to adjust yourself, to do whatever it took to stay in people's good graces. And that worked for a while. But here's the problem. When you build your identity on being liked, you can't afford to lose anyone, even people who don't actually like you. Because losing them feels like losing proof that you matter. And that's why you stay. Not because the friendship is good, but because leaving would mean admitting something you're not ready to admit. Let me show you what I mean. There's a specific kind of fear that keeps people in one-sided friendships. The fear that if you let this person go, there won't be anyone else. This is relational scarcity mindset. It's the belief that friendship, real friendship, is rare. And if you've struggled to make friends, or if you've been lonely before, this fear runs deep. So you tell yourself stories. At least I have someone to text. At least I'm not completely alone. Maybe they're just busy. Maybe it'll get better. But underneath those stories is a darker truth. You don't actually believe you deserve better. You don't believe you're the kind of person who gets chosen first, who gets prioritized, who gets loved without having to earn it. So you accept the crumbs, you pretend the crumbs are enough, and over time you stop noticing how hungry you are. Because here's what happens when you stay in relationships where you're not valued. Your baseline for what's acceptable slowly erodes. You start to normalize neglect. Inconsistency becomes just how they are. Effort imbalance becomes, I'm just more invested. And before you know it, you've taught yourself that this is what friendship looks like. But it's not. This is what tolerance looks like, and tolerance is not the same as connection. So why can't you just leave? Why does the idea of walking away feel impossible? Because there's something deeper happening here. Something you might not want to hear. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Part of you knows they don't like you, but another part of you is terrified they might be right not to. This is the invisible contract you've made with yourself. If I can just make them like me, it proves I'm likable. If I can just earn their approval, it proves I'm worthy of approval. And as long as that contract is active, you can't leave. Because leaving would mean accepting that you failed, that you weren't enough, that no matter how hard you tried, you couldn't make them choose you. This is what psychologists call a sunk cost fallacy. You've invested so much time, energy, emotional labor, that walking away feels like admitting it was all for nothing. So you stay, you keep trying, you keep showing up, you keep hoping that one day, if you just get it right, they'll finally see you the way you want to be seen. But here's what you need to understand. You can't earn genuine affection. You can perform for it. You can bargain for it. You can bend yourself into shapes that might keep someone around. But you can't make someone feel something they don't feel. And the more you try, the more you lose yourself in the process. And that's the real cost. Not that they don't like you, but that in trying to make them like you, you've stopped liking yourself. Stay with me. When you're in a one-sided friendship, you're not actually being yourself. You're being the version of yourself you think they'll accept. You edit your stories, you tone down your excitement, you hide your needs, you become smaller, quieter, less complicated. Because somewhere along the way, you learned that the real you is too much, too needy, too sensitive, too intense. So you perform an easier version, a version that doesn't ask for much, that doesn't cause problems, that's grateful just to be included. And maybe that performance works. Maybe they keep you around. But here's the question you're not asking. What's the point of being kept around if the person they're keeping isn't actually you? This is the performance trap. You trade authenticity for proximity, and you tell yourself it's worth it. Because at least you're not alone. But you are alone. You're alone with a version of yourself that doesn't exist. You're alone in a friendship where you can't be real. And that kind of loneliness, the loneliness of being with people who don't actually know you, is worse than being physically alone. Because at least when you're alone, you're not pretending. So here's the question you've been avoiding. What would happen if you stopped performing? What would happen if you just left? That's what we need to talk about next. The reason you don't leave isn't just about them. It's about what comes after. Because when you imagine walking away, you don't imagine relief. You imagine emptiness. No one to text, no plans, no proof that you matter to anyone. And that emptiness feels unbearable. So you stay in the friendship, not because it's good, but because the alternative feels like disappearing. This is what psychologists call the void fear. It's the terror of what happens when you remove something, even something that hurts you, without knowing what will replace it. And for people who struggle with self-worth, the void feels like confirmation. See, you let them go and now you have no one. You were right to hold on. But here's the truth they don't tell you. The void isn't empty, it's space. Space for something real to grow. Space for people who actually choose you. Space for you to stop performing and start living. But you'll never know that if you keep filling the void with people who don't value you. Because here's what happens when you stay. You block yourself from better relationships. You send a signal to the universe, to yourself, that this is what you deserve. And you teach yourself that your needs don't matter, that your feelings don't matter, that you don't matter. And the longer you stay, the harder it becomes to believe anything different. So what's the way out? How do you leave without falling apart? This is the part that changes everything. The way out isn't dramatic. It's not a confrontation. It's not a big announcement. It's a quiet internal shift. It's the moment you realize, this friendship isn't making me feel loved. It's making me feel tolerated. And I deserve more than that. Not because you're special. not because you're perfect, but because every human being deserves to be in relationships where they're actually wanted, where their presence is a gift, not a burden, where they don't have to perform to be accepted. And once you realize that, really realize it, leaving becomes less terrifying. Because it's not about them rejecting you, it's about you choosing yourself. Here's what that looks like. Stop initiating. Not as a test, but as a boundary. See what happens when you're not the one holding the friendship together. Notice how you feel. Pay attention to whether you feel lighter or heavier after spending time with them. Your body knows the truth. Redirect your energy. Put your effort into relationships that feel reciprocal, even if they're new, even if they're fragile. Grieve the fantasy. Mourn the friendship you wanted, not the one you had. Because what you're losing isn't real, it's the hope that it could have been. Forgive yourself for staying too long, for ignoring the signs, for choosing loyalty over self-respect. You were doing the best you could with what you knew, and then, slowly, quietly, you let go. Not with anger, not with resentment, but with the understanding that some people aren't meant to stay in your life. And that's okay. Here's the thing about one-sided friendships. They're not really about the other person. They're about you, about what you believe you deserve, about what you're willing to tolerate in exchange for not being alone. And the hard truth is this: as long as you believe that being chosen by others is more important than choosing yourself, you'll keep finding yourself in relationships where you're not valued. Not because you're unlucky, not because people are cruel, but because you're unconsciously seeking relationships that confirm what you already believe about yourself. That you have to earn love, that your needs are too much, that you're only worth keeping around if you're easy, convenient, undemanding. But none of that is true. You don't have to earn love. You don't have to shrink yourself. You don't have to perform to be worthy of connection. And the people who make you feel like you do, they're not your people. And that's not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of their capacity. If you're in a friendship where you feel tolerated instead of treasured, if you're the one who always reaches out first, if you've been performing a version of yourself just to keep someone around, this is your permission to stop. Not because they're bad people, but because you deserve to be in relationships where you don't have to question whether you're wanted, where your presence is celebrated, not endured, where you can be fully yourself, and that's enough. You don't need everyone to like you. You just need to stop staying with people who don't. Because the space they're taking up, that's space for someone who will actually see you. But they can't get in if you're still holding the door open for people who left a long time ago. If this hit home, leave a comment. Even if it's just, "I needed this." Sometimes that's all it takes to start choosing yourself. And if you know someone stuck in a one-sided friendship, send this to them. Not as a judgment, but as a reminder that they deserve better. Subscribe for more psychology that actually sees you, not the version you perform, the real you.